It's time for the Chips and Salsa Show.
The only show about Latinos for Latinos. And did we mention Latinos?
It's the Latísima.
Latinos come in all flavors, shapes, and sizes. You don't have to be Latino to enjoy Chips and Salsa.
People love Chips and Salsa.
Welcome. Hey, this is your next edition of the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. I'm your host, Alice Lara, and today I have a special surprise because I actually have two guest co-hosts with me. I'm going to introduce them briefly, and then we'll come back in a few minutes so you can get to know them just a little better. One is a return, so I'm going to introduce you first. Rick Reynaud, thanks for coming back, buddy.
Yes, I'm Rick Reynaud, local community organizer. I'm supposed to be retired since 2017, but things got in the way.
That's really a lie. You're not retired. It's true, and we're gonna let you know all about that in just a moment. And then our other guest co-host, is Mr. Hector Magallanes. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And he's a first-time newbie, and these guys...
Be kind.
No, that's all good. I was just going to say, these guys follow politics, local, state, and national, so it's going to be a really great show. So hang there tight. And like I always like to mention, even though you may be watching from Arizona or another state, a lot of the things that we talk about, they're in your community and state as well. So thank you very much, Chipsters, for tuning in, and we hope that you share this show. I should kind of make a little business announcement. Typically, we record the show on Monday afternoons, then we upload it on Tuesday, and that's by our good buddies here that produce the show, Oregon Mountain Studios, Joey Garza and his lovely wife, Haley. And also helping us out today is Daniel, brother of Joey, and we appreciate that. But today, because we were expecting some news about a certain hearing we'll be talking about in a moment, we were going to record the show today with him, and he couldn't make it, so that's okay. So we're a little behind. The show will be uploaded probably by Wednesday morning, but no problem with that. So let's take care of some business real quick. We like to talk about Flavors of the Desert, quickly becoming one of my favorite food magazines here locally, in the Las Cruces area. The next edition, I'm told, Joe, you should come here and just do a commercial for us. That's what you should do. And what they're going to do is you're highlighting the food trucks out here, right?
Yeah, all the food trucks in Las Cruces, and we'll be doing some food videos on it. So,
fantastic.
Super excited.
That's great. And actually, and Joey, last time when you were doing the show with me, you said you were a chef.
Yep. Yeah, about 20 years I've been in the kitchen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Professionally done. So we should expect some chips and salsa sometime. Don't you
Some
think
fresh
so?
salsa, right?
Yeah, very authentic, right. But you can find this, even if you go to the farmer's market on Saturdays, you can find it there too, and around some local businesses. If they want to just kind of look online, do you have a website for this?
No, but we do have a
Facebook site.
Yeah, we're on Facebook right now. We should have a website pretty soon. So
fantastic.
It's actually in the works. But yeah, we're on Facebook right now, and some of our food videos are on Facebook as well.
Great, and I saw one of those too. Very nice. They're out there eating food, and
Very
so food trucks.
prepared.
It is professional, isn't it?
Yes, very professional.
So all you food trucks in Las Cruces and the Las Cruces area, this is the magazine you want to get in. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks, guys.
It's all good. And Joey Garza, too, he helped me co-host the show. He is a millennial. This is like a boomer show today. We're all boomers here, so,
You mean old farts?
It's well, if you want to call us that. But I kind of prefer the boomers a little,
Okay,
a
I'll
little
go with
better,
yours.
but that's okay. It's all good. It's all good. Not a problem at all. All right, so I want to just make sure I get everything. Now, I wanted to tease a little bit here because next week, right, Joey? Keeping our fingers crossed, we're going to have a surprise here. So we're hoping tune in next week, and I can't really reveal what it is. What can I say about it, Joey? It's big.
It's a big surprise. Good treat, maybe.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, good treat. It has directly to do with our show, a little bit of a change, I'll say, to our show. So but tell your friends and tune in, and we'll keep you posted. If we can release a little news before then, we will, but that's okay. We like to keep the suspense going. It's all good. It really is. So tell your friends about us. And remember, we're on Rumble and on YouTube. If you haven't followed us there yet, please do subscribe. We're growing more and more every day. This is the Chips and Salsa Show, New Mexico. There is still a Chips and Salsa Show, Arizona. I just talked to my friend, Don Jorge, and he's getting ready to kick things off here real soon. So thank you very much for your support. And our mission here is, especially here in Las Cruces, because we just don't have enough informational shows and things. We want to make sure you get the political stories that aren't getting out there. And you'll see very soon we are going to be talking about topics that maybe you heard about it, but you didn't know the little details. So without further ado, though, I want to introduce you more intimately to our guest. And I'm going to ask Hector Magallanes to go first and give us a little 2-minute bio. I will tell you, I'm still relatively new to the area. I've only been here a couple of years, but just getting involved with politics, I've come across and met some really good friends, made some great acquaintances, and these two, they know what they're talking about. So go ahead and talk to the audience for a couple of minutes. Tell them a little bit about yourself, Hector, and why you're a wonderful political person, activist.
Well, thank you for introducing me so great. I don't know everything. I like to pretend I do, but I don't.
And I'll just remind you to get a little closer to the mic.
All right. Well, I'm a longtime resident of Las Cruces. I was born here. I born and raised, went to Las Cruces High School. I think somebody
Bulldogs.
Yeah. And went to school here, got a degree, and then I went away for a while, worked in California as an environmental engineer. And then I came back and to Las Cruces. My wife's also from New Mexico, and she wanted to come back and raise a family. At least that's the official excuse. But we came back and raised a family, and I just stayed here. I got a job at White Sands. I worked with Rick.
Wow.
And I know him very well. I enjoyed working with Rick. And like Rick, I'm also retired. And so
what did you do at White Sands?
I started lots of things. I started as an environmental engineer at White Sands, and then I moved into business development for a while. And then I moved on to project management, basically, officially called a test conductor. But I was, for all intents and purposes, a facilitator, a gopher. I'd have somebody come in and do a test, and I would be assigned that customer, and I would arrange everything for them. I'd get them a place to test. I'd get them all the equipment. I'd do everything.
Are these testing the missiles themselves, or what?
Well, it's different systems.
Oh,
they
okay.
have different. We had all kinds of people testing missiles, testing all kinds of. What it is the government hires a contractor to develop a widget. I'll call it.
Okay.
And then they need to prove to the government that it works. So they bring it to a range like White Sands, and that's where they prove to the government that it works, so that the government can either say yay or nay and either buy it or not buy it. Okay. But we're there to help these contractors with their project to prove that it does work.
And you're retired now?
Yeah, now I'm retired. I retired in the middle of COVID because it was time for me to leave. Things at White Sands are getting kind of crazy, but I retired. I made a personal decision to leave. And now I'm just getting involved with other things. One of the things is I realized real quick that it doesn't, if you're into where you live, it doesn't do you any good just to sit and watch. You need to get involved with things. So I've been involved with CCIA now, and I've met a lot of different people like yourself. And I've been involved with, like recently, I've been involved with the petitions for...
we'll talk about those referendums.
Yeah,
and you also want to mention, too, Hector, and that's where I got to know you a little bit more, too. More recently, he was the campaign manager for Julia Ruiz.
Yes,
Julia Ruiz. She ran for school board. She almost made it. She almost was there. Great campaign. And so a lot of good experience. So thank you for doing that.
What happened, the conservatives split the vote. There was two conservative candidates, Julia and someone else, and they would have overcome Teresa Tenorio.
If we only had one conservative, that's true.
We keep shooting ourselves in the foot like that.
I know, and this is a good segue. Let's go to Mr. Rick Reynaud now. And I know you have been on before, so the audience may recognize you, but go ahead and give yourself a little 2-minute bio as well. And by the way, we're all Latino Republicans here too, conservatives. So just because you're Latino doesn't mean you're a Democrat. We're all Republicans.
Well, I'm about half a Latino. So.
Here we're all Republicans.
We're all, yeah.
And you're half Latino.
So I'll start with school. I went to Magallanes Mary Elementary School, Lynn Junior High, Las Cruces High, and Mexico State.
Aggie.
Yes. I worked in private industry a little bit in Roswell, and that's where I met my wife. And came back to White Sands and worked there, had a 30-year career in testing. I had test facilities out there. We had vibration facilities and very large test chambers. Our largest test chamber is 50 feet high, 5 stories high on the inside, so we could test entire systems out there. So,
Wow.
and I thought I was going to have a quiet retirement when I retired in 2017. And I started helping my brother at his business, and then he passed away suddenly, my twin brother,
Right.
about 5 months later. And I carried on with the business, working 60 or 70-hour weeks since 2017. It's crazy.
Wow.
And paying attention to politics, it got me good on the computer and multitasking. And it really started with that July 15th, 2019 City Council meeting, where the City Council, in my opinion, they pulled a race card on Las Cruces. They pulled the race card on Hispanic people who didn't go along with them, and on white people. So anyway, I could go deep into that later on.
That cut you, that fired you off, huh?
That fired, and then that turned me into an activist. The next year, I was a challenger at the absentee ballot warehouse, and I was one of the 4 challengers that got thrown out of there. Me and the Parrots, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name, but it wasn't as dramatic as it could have been. They didn't throw us out the front door like the saloon. They just kind of asked us to leave.
Why did they throw you out?
Dan Parrott and the other gentleman stepped over a line so Dan could take down a reading. That's all he was doing. They had all these silly lines because it was COVID.
Oh, COVID.
And Dan Parrott even told the presiding judge, I'm going to step over the line, take the reading, and I'm going to give this reading to the Democrat challenger, because they were taking notes, and that wasn't good enough. So it wasn't really Dan Parrott making a scene. He said, I'm going to step over this line, and then so the presiding judge called the Bureau of Elections chief, Andy Perez, to come down and resolve the situation. And one thing I'll say about that scene is you don't know what happened reading the local accounts in the Sun News and the Bulletin. Andy Perez, he was a Bureau of Elections chief. He arrived very, very agitated. He was just on edge. Him and Dan Parrott were discussing the voting. They had a book open, and Dan accidentally touched his arm, Mr. Perez's arm, and he just squealed, "Don't touch me! You touch me! You touch the book!" And that's some of the things that were going on. People were standing around, about 20 people standing around, kind of looking down like, this is embarrassing. But Andy Perez sure was nervous. And Dan Parrott did not make a scene to precipitate
the COVID fear. And Dan is very nice, very gentlemanly and polite. So that's crazy.
They threw Dan and the other gentleman out because they did step over the line. And me and Lisa Parrott were still sitting there about 20 minutes later. And a real big sheriff deputy and the sheriff walked up and said, you guys have to leave. And then Lisa Parrott, in her southern voice, said, "You mean us? We didn't step over the line." And so we gathered up our stuff and we left the building. But it would have been better, if they would have thrown us out the front door, or butt first out of the saloon door, through a window, something like that. Maybe the story will change.
You should have just rolled out of there next time.
As I get older, the story will change. So I'm one of the 4 challengers. So that's enough.
Wow. Well, that's a pretty good intro. Now you know these 2 people are
Rabble-rouser.
the right people to invite, because they've experienced politics here in Little Las Cruces, right? Which I should remind our audience, because not everybody knows that much about Las Cruces. We are, if you think about New Mexico and the southern part of it, I-10 and I-25 intersect right here. And we're like about 45 minutes, 50 miles from El Paso, Texas. So it's about 115,000 is our population of Las Cruces, right? I'd say around there.
City limits, if you count
Around
the
there.
county,
The
it's
county's
over.
about over 200,000, I understand that. But as I said, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today, even though it's pretty localized, and we'll talk some national stuff too, but it's happening in your community too. I mean, just about every day you read something, you read stories, I'm thinking, okay, where is this? Is this Phoenix? No, it's just,
right here.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's wild. So I want to thank you guys both for coming in again today. And thank you, Joey. Joey was going to co-host it with me, and he couldn't do it, so I called them. But he's still here. He ended up in studio anyway. So interject if there's something we're forgetting. And I just want to say, Joe, I really appreciated when you did the show with me, too, because he's our millennial, a millennial like Zeke was. And the millennials are following so much. And Haley's wife, too, and everything. And Daniel, you're a millennial also, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good deal. And I just love it because the younger folk, okay, they're coming in after us. and they're working hard, and they don't want this world. They know there's a better world to be made for them. So let's get started. What do you want to do first? Do you want to do national, local, county? I mean, we got a plethora of things. Where would you like to start?
Well, let's start with local. It seems like everybody wants to know what's in it for me. So
I think that's good.
Let's start with local, and then we can go up.
Well, let's. How about let's do Ronnie's deal first, okay? So a few weeks ago, we interviewed Ronnie Cisneros, and Ronnie put in petitions and filed with the Dona County Clerk to run for District 37 for New Mexico House, for the House of Representatives. Well, he got disqualified, and I won't go into like a long detailed story, but in essence what happened is the state party of the Republican Party of New Mexico went and challenged that. And there was a hearing yesterday. So we were hoping that Ronnie would be able to record the show yesterday, but the judge didn't have an answer yet. So we were going to do it today. But as of this point, right now we're recording the show, and it's 2:00 on Tuesday afternoon. And as far as I know, he hasn't texted me yet, there is still no decision that was made whether or not to allow Ronnie Cisneros to stay in the race. I will say, I'm not going to say a whole lot about it. I don't want to jeopardize anything, but I was there, and I will say that the judge was Manuel Arrieta. Are you guys either familiar with him at all? No? But he appeared to be a very fair judge. I like the way he handled his court. He asked a lot of very good questions. He seemed to really want to understand the process. Good. So I'm hoping that whatever happens, of course, I want Ronnie to be able to run. He's a very good candidate. And you were here after that, too, with your own story of trying to do a write-in.
Oh, we just started.
Well.
And we just started too late. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and now we know that if you don't have a candidate, like in Senate 37, there was only Souls, the Democrat, and no Republicans at all. We found out you could do a write-in. You have one more week, and that's what I was trying to get in on the last day. So, but at least now we know the process.
Yeah, so watch out the next time, because we'll be ready, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's what was interesting. Even during the hearing, what I kind of kept looking at is you have to understand the process. And even the judge had a lot of questions. The attorneys up there, they were asking him. I want to mention too, there was the current state representative for District 37 is Joanne Ferrari. She was there, and like I say, I'm not going to tell you a whole lot about what happened, but she was there, and I thought that was very, very interesting. Are you in 37?
I used to be in 37, now I'm in 53 with Winter Road.
Okay, Winter Road. That's right, you're Winter Road.
No, I know one thing I can say about ballots and nominating petitions in general is no stray marks are allowed anywhere. When we were doing the petitions to recall those 6 bad laws, we were given strict instructions. We even had a pad for people to get their pen going, and so they're very exacting at the Secretary of State's office. They want to see something wrong.
So it could not be misconstrued.
Yeah, we had a pad saying, get your pen going here. Don't do it on the sheet, because then they'll throw the whole sheet out. One stray mark, and you just have to, and they'll do that.
Wow.
They are consistent. They'll throw out Democrat ballots also. I've seen that they're consistent. That's one thing. That's one.
Yeah. So we're still hoping on that story.
Can I ask
Yes,
a
sir.
question? Excuse my ignorance, I'm an old fart. But in Ronnie's situation, okay, the hearing and so forth, I'm still kind of unclear. What is the decision on? Was there a lack of process that on behalf of Ronnie, something that he just failed to do? Or is there something wrong that was done?
I should have brought the story in for me, but what I can say is there were 11 signatures filed electronically. So here in New Mexico, you can go online and you can file, and those were accepted.
Okay.
Now, people like me, I gathered signatures for him, so that's on paper, and you actually go to someone, and get them to sign.
Right. Endorsing.
What had happened was nothing on the signatures, but evidently on the header something was crossed out. And so the Secretary of State disqualified Ronnie's petitions, saying that, and the way that I read it, it sounded like they were saying he was committing fraud. And that wasn't the case. I mean, I could just, when I've been doing this for a long time, I've been involved in politics for a long time, and I'm extremely anal and picky about that. So whenever I ask you to sign something, I'm going to talk with you for 5 minutes and say, Hector, here's what you're signing.
Yes.
This is what the guy is.
Yes.
I know him personally,
Yes. Yes.
and then I'm going to watch you sign
Right.
and do that.
Right.
Because,
Right.
you know, I can tell you, whenever I do that, they could go, it was mostly my neighbors that I got it from. It was mine was on there, so was my husband's. And they can tell you, they knew exactly what Ronnie was running for. But I can't wait until, and I keep checking my phone, I can't wait until a decision is reached. And we'll see.
Well, I guess,
Fingers crossed.
simple mind, but if there was something clearly that he did wrong, why is the judge taking so long to make a decision? If it's something obvious, then
Well, that's
clear
why
it
I'm
up and
hopeful.
done.
Somebody told him to scratch that out, though, right? Somebody, when he turned in the paperwork.
I'm not sure exactly, and like I say, I don't want to say necessarily.
Right.
But yeah, it was because it was ready, and we were very careful because he wanted to make sure he had everything right on there.
And I think that's what the argument is being made, that somebody instructed him maybe to do that there at the office, and then when he turned it in, he got disqualified. So I think that's where this discrepancy
And
might be.
so we'll see what
You know
happens.
what's sort of concerning is the word fraud.
Right.
That they label on him, trying to be careful, even though he might have made a mistake, maybe not. But they label fraud. Well, how much fraud is a crossed out thing, and you hand it to the Secretary of State? I mean,
Well,
what
they-
are you going
they
to get? What are you
accepted
going to
it
get
too.
past it? And they accepted
They
it. So
accepted it.
that's just a.
I have a lot of questions too.
Yeah.
And that's why I wish that we had the decision so we could bring Ronnie on, and then I would ask all my questions.
It's kind of, is that a way to treat a candidate, a citizen just trying to run for office?
Right.
And here's the thing
Right.
too, okay?
Exactly.
I signed that because I wanted Ronnie to run
Yeah.
for my state rep. So now, I don't like this word, guys, okay? Because the left uses it all the time, disenfranchised. But it's like I was disenfranchised. I really wanted Ronnie. Now I don't. If he doesn't get to run, she will automatically win because she doesn't have an opponent, right? Because it's too late to get a right in there, right?
Your word may be, you might like it, but the point is that they're disillusioning supporters for Ronnie by making him look like he did something wrong.
That's another point. So yeah, so to those of you out there who are thinking about running, okay, I would just say make sure you research and try to get information. I'm going to throw something in here, okay? And I'm still new to the political process here in New Mexico, and I was in Arizona for a long time. But to try to get some good information about process and what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to do things, it's a little bit of a challenge. I won't say that I have come across a couple people and they know what they're talking about, but to try to find somebody who really does can give you and you ran a campaign, so I don't have to tell you, right?
Yes, I
It
know
wasn't
exactly
easy.
what you're saying. It was like getting what is it that you're allowed and not allowed to do as
That
a
you wanna do
candidate?
things right.
And you go right to the source, which was the county, and they didn't know it. They asked me to go ask somebody else. So, I mean, here's the source, and they can't tell you as a candidate what is right and what is wrong.
Where did they tell you to go? And no, not the bad word. But where did they tell you to go? Did they tell you to go to the Secretary of State or look it up?
Both, actually.
That's disappointing.
They put the monkey on your back. Instead of them being the source, they just say, well, here, you go, you find. You're a smart person. You go find it if you want to know it. You go do the research.
You know, in Arizona, now Maricopa County, it's huge. There's like 4.5 million people that are there. But I remember too, they would actually have like workshops. So if you were going to run for office, or say even I remember when I ran for office, my treasurer, he said, okay, you can come at this time. We have these different classes. So that way the treasurer knew exactly what they were supposed to do. And they could ask questions. They gave them materials and samples. I mean, it is a lot of work, but at least they offered that. And, it's a different animal out here. So maybe some good will come out of all of this. What do you think? I'm hoping.
Well, asking the question, like bringing up these points where a logical person could say, hey, wait a minute, what's the problem here? And it raises a question that makes people aware that these kind of things are happening.
Yeah.
And they need to ask why.
Right.
One is the electronic petitions that the Rio Grande Federated Republican women, that's a long one to say, helped me at the last minute. So we're getting.
Oh, you mean my group? Dona County
group?
Federated Republican Women.
Okay, yeah, see, I can't get
Dona
that.
County.
I
I
need to write it
know.
down.
Well, you were close. Rio
But,
Grande's here.
You know, we had less than 24 hours. We had like 20 hours to get the signatures electronic, and we got 35 by 5 o'clock Tuesday. But by the next morning, there was 40. So and we just ran out of time. And then I was 1 minute late. I had a story about being 1 minute late, but that's
Oh,
that's
yeah,
another
the
thing.
Tim Conway story. Yeah.
Tim Conway, Mrs. Tim Conway was walking my paperwork back to the office, and she went to the glass doors, and she's just walking really slow. I just wanted to push. Anyways,
You were going to go get her a hovercraft. Come on, man.
And then she clocked in. I saw her clock it in. I was looking at the clock, and it was 5:01. It's like, and that was on my rejection letter from the Secretary of State. You did not submit timely. I didn't have
See?
I didn't have 55 signatures anyway, but I figured I'm going to turn it in with less signatures, because then I'll balk and cry until they let me in. It'd be like the Democrats.
You were still there, so I
Yeah.
get it. It makes you want to record everything. I don't know if they would have allowed you to, but it makes you just want to record everything that happens to you for backup, isn't it? It's weird. Better luck next time.
That is, I was out in the outer office of the office of the county clerk's office, and I was pointing to a clock. It was digital. It said 5. It turned over to 5:00, and then she was still trucking to where she stamped my paperwork in. And I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm hoping these clocks are a few seconds off, you know.
Which is the official clock?
Oh my goodness. So we'll keep you posted. If during the show, I asked Ronnie, I said, if you get word while we're recording the show, because he's working right now and stuff, please call in or text us. And let me just make sure, no, nothing yet. Okay, it's all good. Okay, so let's kind of keep it local still. We were talking earlier, we were telling Haley, you know, these guys are business owners, about Las Cruces has a plan for planning and zoning. And I was just made kind of aware of it. And, you know, I try to keep up with everything, but there's so much, I just can't. You guys do a better job than I do. But the planning and zoning issue has come up. And this seems, people were talking about Agenda 21 and Agenda 30. I mean, okay, which one of you wants to tackle this thing first?
Rick,
I'll start first. Sarah Smith, I don't know how she put together a 9-minute video on this.
Great video.
Yeah,
Great
on
job.
these zoning changes. The zoning changes won't happen until in September. This is the first round of comments. There's gonna be another round of comments in July.
Yes.
You can really get into the meat of it. But at the there was a lot of comments. I made a comment on where you left comments, and you could see everyone else's comment. And regarding,
And I should mention, this is just strictly for the city of Las Cruces, only the
Right.
city of Las
Yep.
Cruces.
And I don't know if you saw those. I posted it. Everyone was angry about zoning, and you know, I'm fine where I'm at. Don't mess with this. Why are you doing this? Why are you putting a store like a Family Dollar in the middle of a neighborhood? Because Family Dollars and stores only attract crime because of the city council. But anyway, it was just they want to put apartment complexes in our newest neighborhoods. I won't say anything more than that, but. You know, as you rise up through the social strata, you want to maybe move it somewhere else, and no one's stopping anyone from getting a mortgage anywhere. And so anyway, I had a discussion with Councilor Ben Como about opportunity, and I said no one's stopping anybody in Dona County, and because she was kind of alluding to the fact that she was a woman and Hispanic. I said no one's stopping you here. So anyway,
Right.
So
Well, Rick, you mentioned making comments, you know, and I think right now that's the way to make the powers that be aware that these things are unacceptable. So how do we get from an opinion or heartache about something to getting a comment in that someone will listen to
Hector,
and take action?
And I should mention that the commentary that he's talking about is, you went specifically on the city site, and they were open until 5 o'clock the next day. You know, Sarah gave it to us on Thursday, told us. And so you could go in there, and they limited how many words you could put. I commented. I think I got a couple of paragraphs in to do that. And I didn't see one supportive comment. Did you see?
I didn't see it regarding zoning.
Yeah.
I didn't see one, and I saw a lot of just backlash to what they're even planning. You know, there's questions like comments like, "Why are you even doing this?" So then I took a snip of about 12 comments. I took a snip of it and I posted it on Facebook. I said, look at this, what people think of the new zoning proposal. So anyway, so there's gonna be a point in July, you were talking, where it's the first round of official comments. These are kind of like preliminary pot shots, I guess. And it's not gonna be finalized till November, so we have a chance to.
Oh, so not really voting on it at this point?
Yeah, it's
Are
just
they voting
the
to go
raw
forward?
comments, and see, those comments are gonna go to the city staff. And someone's gonna, from the city staff is gonna have to tell the councilors and Mayor Pro Tem Bencomo that, they don't like this idea, especially zoning. Well, I don't think the other places either. They're zoning out, you couldn't have chickens and goats. I'd have to get rid of my goats. No, I don't have goats, but there's some people in the city limits that want chickens and little animals.
Are they actually going to look through the comments and give the council specific things that people don't like, rather than just saying, I don't like zoning, versus I don't like zoning, mixed zoning where businesses are next to my house or in a residential area? Are they going to be able to kind of weed those out and give specific things to the council people to look at?
I'd hate to be the person at the city planning that has to tell the councilors there's not one person that likes your zoning.
And the councilors could go on there and look at all the comments themselves and read
Yeah,
everything if they wanted to.
Everyone just hates it, and it is kind of tied in with Agenda 21 and Agenda 30, 15-minute cities where everything is 50. Everyone lives in harmony, and everyone
Can you
walks.
go over those Agenda 21 and what are they generally? What do they mean?
They're United Nations guidelines that cities and states foolishly follow because why would they follow them? That's what New Mexico State University is doing in agriculture. They're following the UN guidelines and not just following what we used to do.
Oh.
At NMSU, we used to have President Gerald Thomas, and he was an international food expert. Gerald Thomas. He was a World War II fighter pilot. He ended up at Texas A&M as an ag professor. He was in 1970. He was named president of NMSU in 1970, and that's what that was. There was more. I don't know. There was. We were helping the world in agriculture, but we weren't subservient to the UN and their crazy goals of eating bugs and things like that.
That's a really good way to put it.
I have an app on my phone that it scans barcodes and it tells you what kind of bug parts are in your food. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I'd be afraid to get that app.
Yeah, there's a red dye. There's a red dye, and they make it by drowning these little red bugs. They drown them. Equity for the red bugs.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, but there's apps you can get. My daughter's turned me onto this app, and
Now we're going to have to post that. You're going to have to. We have to post that and do that. But you know, one on the Agenda 21, Agenda 30, it's like to 21, now it's 32. But one of the things that I was telling Haley and Joey about this is, Sarah mentioned, so if you have a new business, and usually for a new business, restaurant, whatever, you need a certain amount of parking spaces so you can accommodate people there. Well, they're going to limit those. And what is that going to do? That's going to affect your business. And like you say, the mission that we believe is happening is, okay, well, that means, the people will have to take a bus there or they'll have to ride their bike or something, anything to get them off their gasoline-powered cars. Although if they want to push the EV, you'd think they wouldn't do that, right? Wouldn't they want EV spots? Maybe they're going to be doing that as well.
Right, yeah. Being a simple-minded person, I think they just don't think far enough into the future.
I think it's intentional. Maybe, that's my conspiracy of it. I think a lot of it's intentional. They're wanting to do this.
I think there's an element of that, but I also think that you have to have planners that have something between their ears and think forward instead of, what do I need immediately for right now because I've got a constituent that wants this.
But see, the problem that you have is you're making too much sense. Planners for the future and our city's growth. Who do you think you are, Hector?
I don't know.
I'm joking, ladies and gentlemen. I'm joking, okay?
Well, the new buzzword is sustainability.
Yeah.
And that's a big word in the UN documents, and that's what the city of Las Cruces is following on this zoning. I'll bet $100, and that's what NMSU, they have a goals 2025. That's what they're bringing in.
That's next year.
That is, and that's where DEI is explicitly brought in, implicit bias training, all this and that nonsense, and implicit bias is what made us caught LCPS and MSU that they adopted a policy that was wrong, just plain wrong in 2019 because it included implicit bias, the notion that white people are biased against black people, and it was disproven in 2017. So that's why LCPS, when we went in there and fought the equity policy in 2021, we knew in 2019, hey, someone snookered you guys. You were sold a bill of goods. Dr. Tomlinson and Sarah Smith should have known. They sold a bill of goods to Senora Flores and Dahlman, and they knew 2 years before implicit bias had been debunked in 2015 by its inventors. So anyway, that's the sort of Damocles hanging over NMSU Regents right now.
Did they get rid of it, Rick? I mean, what's going on there?
NMSU adopted their ethnic studies department, BEST. It's called the BEST department. It's the ethnic studies type of stuff at NMSU in 2019, based on the LCPS policy AC, where they brought in implicit bias. It's just a marker that says it was they were snookered. It was improper. So LCPS adopted in 2019, and we found out about in 2021, and then NMSU started all their stuff, equity and DEI, based on the LCPS policy. So it's all a house of cards.
Wow. And LCPS is Las Cruces Public Schools, is what Rick's talking about.
And so the thing I'm going to bring out at some point is when we were fighting Las Cruces Public Schools, the equity policy in 2021, at the same time, NMSU professors were calling us racists. And I haven't brought that, I don't know what to do with the information yet, but I have the IPRAs. And also in 2021, the NMSU professors in that department were talking about white people and religion and talking about white spaces and anti-Semitic things. And if you're white and religious, you're just out. If you're Hispanic and religious, you're out because of the religious part. So anyway, I'm still doing some research on what happened.
Rick, since you're half Latino, you're like a double whammy. Are you racist against yourself?
Oh yeah, it's my dad never gave me the answers, to the math problems. Rick, here's the answers.
Did you only have half white privilege?
My mom was smarter than my dad. My dad was pretty smart. He was a mathematician. My mom was really good. She graduated second at Gadsden.
Wow.
And she was all state and band, and she was in all the honor societies. She wanted to do all that stuff. Now what's happening at Las Cruces Public Schools, this was in 2021, they're dropping honors courses. There was Hispanic.
They're dropping honors?
In generally at Las Cruces Public Schools, there was 2 Hispanic girls and their dad, who was a principal, junior high principal in Las Cruces Public Schools. And in 2021, they were asking, why are you doing this? I was looking forward, the girl was saying, I was going forward to going to 6th grade honors class at the middle school, but you dropped it. And then what it is it's equity. You can't have one group of people feeling bad, but these were Hispanic girls asking.
Okay, so
that's like, and so they're lowering standards. That was 2021. Yes. They're dropping honors courses.
Correct.
Just now this year there was a law. I think it was HB 7. They dropped Algebra 2 requirement because it's more equitable. It's not, and it's like, well, are humans getting stupider? Are the evolutionary path going backwards? Why don't we? There's a lot of math teachers who are saying, why are you dropping Algebra 2? Keep it. Get more rigorous. Raise the standards. They're lowering standards. I've written. There's 3 or 4 things that the PED has done the last 3 or 4 years where they're lowering standards.
And PED stands for?
The New Mexico Public Education Department. For the gifted programs across New Mexico, now they're allowing more subjective standards. Oh, we need to think about the well-being of the child. They're trying to cheat for minorities. That's what they're doing. They're saying, well, drums and guitars and things like that, that's really, that should count. But then it's like, well, a lot of white parents or Hispanic, any parent, well, they might send their kid to harp class or to the piano. Another thing that gets me is Hispanics they speak a Romance language, Latin. And I brought this up to the school board, to Pam Port. She's the French and German teacher. Why doesn't LCPS have a Latin club? We'd be cheating because it's a bunch of Hispanics.
Didn't they even take Latin? They took Latin out like when at the end of like They quit offering it.
Yeah, they should bring it back to us, because if they're really honoring Hispanic students, they should bring back Latin, and then we can sandbag and go all across the country. Let's use those schools that win the Latin contest, because we're cheating.
And that's a basic.
And that'd be a good thing to do with Hispanics, instead of lowering standards. I don't understand.
You're right. I just want to, you mentioned about the honors. I was in the, it's like the honor society, right? An honor society you were in, and you could take honors classes, things like that. That's very disappointing. I didn't even realize they had taken that away. Come on, and they probably, if you graduate in the top 10% of your class, then you have a white tassel and everything. I actually did, believe it or not. I probably was the very last one at the very bottom, barely. But did they take that away too? I mean, it's something, you kind of strive for that. Well, and now they're taking that away.
I don't think they've taken it all away, but Dr. Tomlinson's reasoning in the newspaper article, or the article I read, was they're doing it for equity's sake. Equity's just equity equals evil. Because they don't want certain groups of kids to feel bad, but the certain groups, they're trying to not feel bad. They want the classes, they want the highest achievement. And if you take away highest achievement, no honors courses, you're taking away the hard classes, you're lowering the standards for everybody. So when the Hispanic or anyone gets to be salutatorian of Las Cruces High School, it's not real.
That to me is always.
They took away the opportunity for highest achievement. That's what they're not understanding.
That is racist in itself, because to me they're saying, well, you know what, those poor Latino students or the poor black students, they just can't do that, and that's just dumb. That's stupid and dumb.
That they don't have the capability.
Exactly.
And that I really get upset with, because I too, when I was in high school, I was in honor society.
And you had the special little pin and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I was called a nerd and ostracized by everybody because I was the smart guy. But when test time came, hey, who did they come to? Hey, help me with the test. Give me the answers.
They wanted to cheat.
And that's what I'm angry about, is that if a person works and he gets what he gets because of he works, why should he be punished because he earned something that somebody else that didn't work didn't get? So now I want everything just because you got it. You worked your butt off to get, you worked very hard to get where you are, and you get a benefit from it. I, on the other hand, sit and watch you. Why should I feel that I deserve whatever you get?
You're right. The equity, it should be equal. It's all about equal opportunity.
It's opportunity. That's
to get
the key.
There. You're right.
Just because I'm black or white or green, I shouldn't get the opportunity to take these classes or to do these things. It is open to everybody. Now, once you get through the door, then it's up to the individual to apply themselves and succeed. Okay? So opportunity is there. What people are talking about is guaranteed outcome, right? Just because I apply or I walk through the door, that now I'm guaranteed the result that everybody else gets because they work hard.
Just society has never worked well that way. We already know there's plenty of history if you follow history. And I can appreciate it. As you know, and Rick has followed the education stuff for a long, long time. And, New Mexico's still last in education. I was just reading the other day, the lottery from New Mexico, and maybe you know this, Joey, but they get a lot of money for education.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what it is like? It's outrageous, and I'm thinking, and the left likes to throw money at education, but something's not working still. Mm-hmm. And this might be part of the problem, I would think.
Well, I think, if I can open another book, I think a lot of this starts at home. My parents really, really pushed education because they worked their whole lives at minimum wage jobs. And they knew that the only way to get ahead was to apply yourself and get a better education. So whether I wanted to or not, I had somebody
kicking me. You didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I didn't have a choice, right? And I think that right now, a lot of parents aren't involved with their kids and showing them the importance of initiative, the importance of work, the importance of an education. They're just saying, well, if it feels good, do it. But you can't live your life doing whatever feels good. I mean, yeah, it was hard learning algebra, but I did it, And I think that most kids, I've worked in the schools too. When I was in high school, one of the benefits of being in honor society was that they'd let you out to help in the schools. So I was a teacher's aide, and I got to see what it was like working with kids. And most of the time, I got the kids that needed help. Like, for instance, they didn't know how to, they weren't good spellers, or they weren't good at math. So I was like tutoring, right? And I saw firsthand how much kids wanted to succeed. They just didn't have the opportunity to work, someone to help them, because I don't understand. They just needed more time.
And that made sense because they had help with what they needed, and you were able to do it.
Yes.
And then they accomplished it on their own and not just given to them.
Yeah.
Not just given to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we just got to do a lot of prayer and hope that things get better. And these guys are so active in what they do, and that's why I want to encourage you out there, no matter how little, maybe you think you don't have time, maybe you're semi-retired, whatever you can do, even if it's calling your school to find out what's going on. Like there's still the book battle that we're dealing with out here too, with the smutty, awful, pornographic books that we're finding out are offered in schools. Oh, and by the way, I should tease, the end of the month, I have Sarah's going to come in, Sarah Smith, who's one of our political activists from the CSCIA, the Coalition of Conservatives in Action. And she's hitting all these topics. That woman, I don't know how she does it, because she homeschools her kids, they raise chickens. She's active with these books, trying to do that. She's an officer in the coalition. And the referendums, which we haven't even talked about those yet, I mean, she is a busy person. She's an amazing lady.
Can we talk about those referendums? I think that's extremely important.
And since that's local, before we go there, though, I just want to quickly mention, because we do need to talk about the referendums. That's a state issue. Yeah. And before we do that, let's touch a little bit on the county. Do you happen to have the ad up? I don't know if you can show it, but what we'll do is maybe we can get you guys to put that actual ad. So something happened here, and this is a county deal. We have a lot of people on the political left side here in our county, state, and city. And Rick, why don't you just kind of give them the wrap up of what we've are exposed to?
I was there at the county board meeting this morning to give comment about their Facebook ad stating to the public, and I'll read off of it, "You are an accomplice to crime. Leaving your car doors unlocked gives criminals everything they need. Lock up, crime down." And the person there's even a sticker that says, "Hello, you." That's you, the citizen. You're the accomplice. So anyway,
we'll get that graphic up.
Oh.
Joey will get that up. This is a
Okay.
recorded show, so we'll get the graphic up, and we'll put it too on Facebook. I have posted it, and I don't know if I posted it to our Chips and Salsa show website, but. I mean, and that comes directly from the county, right? Is that the county sheriff's department, right?
It's the county sheriff's department. It's an official message from them, and even the reactions were just visceral. Whoever came up with this should be ashamed of themselves, criminalizing the victims.
Right.
Great job.
Mm-hmm.
So that pretty much says it. It's like what's going on in Albuquerque. There's a lot of gang activity happening outside of convenience stores. And the Albuquerque Police Department is blaming the convenience store. Why are you allowing all that gang activity out there? And of course, the convenience store are calling the police and the sheriff and saying, "Get these fools out of here." And so it's equity policing.
Equity policing.
That's what it is.
Are they telling them to lock their doors? I mean, already they lock up merchandise in a lot of places, right? You can't even be just on the shelf to buy. Did they specifically say what the Albuquerque police or whoever was telling them to do?
It was just kind of blaming the shop owners. I know my office is across the street from the Beleaguer Family Dollar on the corner of Solano, Missouri. Mm-hmm. And the front of the business, it blooms plywood signs. Both doors will get broken. Once there'll be 2, and then the top right, top left window will get broken. There'll be 4 plywood windows, and then they'll fix them all. And then the cycle starts again. There's 1 plywood window right now. And the other thing I'm going to say about Family Dollar, now it's Family $4 because of all the shoplifting. Wow. I used to go buy my bag of candy, the Hershey's Nougats with almonds.
Delicious.
It was $1 something just a few years ago. But they're allowing all this shoplifting. Many stores won't chase after the shoplifters. Most stores won't chase
they won't.
after you're not allowed to.
Not allowed to.
Liability. So the more people are passing through Las Cruces, the more we're paying for goods. I call it now. It's the family $4 now.
Wow.
And there's other implications. You know, Dollar General is the $4 General. I mean the $4 General. It doesn't sound respectful of generals. $4 General.
Well, there's no 99-cent store, I'm sure. If there is, I don't know what you can get for 99 cents today. Oh man, it's outrageous. Okay, I know we're getting kind of towards the end of the show, and we didn't even get to talk about the national story about the squatter Venezuelan. What do we call him? A non-American. But maybe that's another show. Or can we go just a few more minutes, guys? Is that all right? Okay. But let's talk referendums, and then we'll finish off with the national story. How's that? We could do that. Okay, so there's a process, and we've talked about it on our show before. In fact, we just went to Santa Rosa de Lima. You were there. You joined us as well, too. And we're doing a referendum process in New Mexico. Hector, why don't you go ahead, explain it briefly to our audience of what that actually encompasses.
Okay. The reason I'm involved is because there's some laws that were passed by the state that
State legislature, yeah.
That affect our kids directly, and us, and parents as well. And where I'm really, my hair just stands on end, is that they never gave us an opportunity to really vote on them. They just decided that it was the benefit, they did it for the benefit of the kids. Like, we'll take care of your kids. We know what's best for them. And there's 3 in particular that just really drive me crazy. And one, it gives the kids the opportunity, well, not the opportunity, the absolute power to decide their own medical fate. If they want to be girl or boy, change sex, if they want to have an abortion, whatever.
And age doesn't matter. They don't have to be 15 or 13.
6 years old, as long as they're in the public schools, they have that right, which I have a problem with that word. But they have that right. Now, where parents get involved is, let's say they go home and they say, hey, Dad, I want to be a girl, and I've decided, and I'm going to get it done at school. And they say, you're crazy, you're not going to get done. Well, once he does that, he goes to school and he lets someone know that he doesn't want to do it, he's violated a crime because he's interfering with that right that kid has to determine his own health status or sexual status.
And also just because I use that example too when I'm trying to get people to sign the referendum petitions, the kid goes to the nurse's office and says, okay, I'm Tommy, but I want to be Tammy. If that nurse or somebody there from the school advises the parent and the kid doesn't want them to, they can be fined. Isn't it thousands of dollars? It's just an outrageous law. Yeah. So the referendum process that we're doing is we have to collect a certain number. You have to be a registered voter.
One more. Excuse me, if I can interrupt the third one.
Let me just explain what it is,
okay.
And then you can go on with them because they got a taste of one law. Yeah. But what we're doing with the process is, if you're a registered voter in New Mexico, it doesn't matter what party you're on, we're collecting enough. So these bad laws, he's going to tell you some more of them, to get them on the ballot for November. That way, the whole entire state of New Mexico, the votership, can be allowed to say yay or nay to these laws. Of course, we're hoping that they say, no, we don't want these laws anymore. This is a process. I'm not sure even most New Mexicans knew about it because it seems like they didn't. So, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to make sure that people understood the process first. So go ahead and continue because he wants to give you some good examples of these.
It's just that we're so animated and excited and for this thing. That's why we're
educating the public because most people we talk to don't know about them, right?
No. So anyway, the third one that I don't like is that, okay, once they've decided what they want to do, their parents have no rights to interfere, then how does it get paid for? Because this is expensive. Well, where is it going to get paid for? The schools, our tax dollars, are paying for that process to go from Jane to Joe, and it's our taxes are already high enough. Why should I be paying for an elective thing that then a poor kid
could be dangerous?
It could be dangerous, and no one is counseling them about those dangers because it's their choice. But anyway, that's why I'm involved, and what I've been learning by going out here is that it's a process of education. I'll talk with 10 people, and maybe I'll have 8 that even know what I'm talking about, right?
That's pretty good if you have 8.
Yeah, And the others are like, huh? And I explain to them, and they just, their hair stands on end, and they
don't believe you, do they?
They don't.
Someone say, oh, these are going to be laws. No, they're laws right now.
They're laws right now. And so what I want is the opportunity to educate people and to give them the opportunity to voice their right. Now, this is the right way to use it. Use their right to vote and tell the state what it is that they want, rather than the state telling them what they want.
In New Mexico, I presume Arizona has an initiative process. So in other words, if I wanted a certain law, I could devise what it was, and then I'd go around collecting petitions. Then you get on the ballot, and the people of Arizona would vote on it. But that process isn't here. So the referendum one is the only one that I know of where the public is more directly involved instead of just the legislature, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I put a plug in for what you're doing. This is a great show because it educates people.
Thank you.
And I think that's what we need to do with these issues, is to bring them up and let people know that they exist, and then what can they do to change it.
And that's our mission. I'm so glad, and you stated it so well. And if you'd like to know more, what we've been doing is we have been going to some of the churches. This weekend we're going, is it Three Crosses, I think? That's up off over Highway 70. But if you need information, the best website is probably in the Better Together New Mexico.
Yes.
You think? Go to that website. They've got the bills listed there. If you're uncomfortable, you can read the entire bill.
Well, the CCIA has a link to all of this stuff. That's where Sarah has been putting her repository of all the work that she's done with these bad laws.
Thanks for reminding me. And that's conservativesinaction.org, I believe, is the website for that. Or come to our meetings. Great segue. Thank you so much, Hector. Thursday evenings, if you're in the Las Cruces area, maybe you live in El Paso, come hang out with us. We've had people come all the way from El Paso, too.
Yes.
Thursday nights at 6 p.m. at the Kitchen Craft. And that is right next to Rudy's Barbecue over there on Tell Shore. Easy to find.
We get nothing from Rudy's for the advertising.
No, but you can go have some of there. They're pretty good supporters of ours. And we invite you to come. It doesn't matter what party you are, independent, Republican, Democrat. We have Democrats. So come and join us. It's really about education. This week we're going to have a movie about the power grid, right? I think that's what we're doing. It's movie night. Come, hang out.
I hope so. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, because that's something another thing to be concerned about.
Well,
you guys, the engineering people.
For me, it's really a big important thing, because I get these guys, people that think the solution to the world's problems is just to stop burning gasoline, right? So, hey, let's plug all our cars into the wall. Well, can you imagine the draw on our electrical grid if everybody plugged their car in? And then what do those electric plants use to make electricity?
How do they make electricity?
So where do you plug an electrical plant into something else? I mean, the problem is bigger than just right here. It's a system, and people look at things just as in terms of what's in it for me versus what's in it for all of us. It's a system.
Okay, so I'm going to ask both of you real quick, and then we're going to go to the national story to finish, because of your backgrounds as well. Because I really feel like people don't necessarily understand the grid system and things of that nature, and how dependent that we're on. And do you feel, I think that might be a product of our education system, or am I getting too analytical here?
Maybe so. Excuse me if I jump in on, but I don't think we're taught a holistic type of system where everything, it's like a jigsaw puzzle, and the only part we're interested in is this blue piece, because that's me. But we don't see how one piece locks into everything else. And if we were to raise the awareness of people that an action causes a consequence versus, I'm just going to do this action and the world will be a whole lot better. Well, there are other things that we have to take into account. And I guess maybe because it's a professional thing because I'm an engineer, but I have to look at a problem in a holistic way, the whole thing versus just a little part.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty good answer. Any thoughts, Rick?
These at White Sands Missile Range, we had a large solar array, but it just seems like a wasteland. Do any animals live there? It must be 3 acres of solar panels, and it's dirt underneath. There's no animals there. Nothing grows there.
Yeah.
It's hot. So is that? What are all the animals that used to live on that 4 or 5 acre plot? It's just hot. dirt. They keep they don't let any weeds grow there, so it's kind of
No sun.
yeah, and no sun.
So that's kind of ironic, right? Solar field.
Well, the solar cells take all the sun, and there's nothing underneath.
Oh, they're eating
because
up all the
nothing-
energy.
Yeah, nothing can grow because it's all shade because of solar collectors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks, guys, for that. Okay, so I want to just hit this national story because I think it's really important, and I don't know if it's affecting Las Cruces. It may be, but those of you who've been following it, I'm sure, there's a dude from Venezuela, okay, and he has a 500,000 followers on TikTok, and the guy, what he was doing is giving tips for squatters. All right, so you've all followed the national stories that maybe you have a house and you left it alone and somebody says, oh, here, I have a lease, I'm not leaving, I've got squatters' rights. And I'm hoping it's not a big deal here in Las Cruces. If you guys know differently, let me know. But the bigger cities, we've heard about these awful stories in New York, and I'm just going to update you. Fugitive Venezuela, they say migrant, I'll call him a non-American, Leonel Moreno, finally been arrested by ICE, 2 years on the run. Okay, 27 years old, picked up in Columbus, Ohio. He made it all the way to Columbus, and he's in federal custody. He's been hunted by ICE since he crossed the border illegally April of 2022. So we're going on 2 years. This is 2 years. And he was released. So he's due in court in Miami, November 2022, but never showed up. So this just is an outrageous story. I was quickly telling Joey before the show that there was a gentleman whose mom was affected by this. And some squatters went to her rental and they wouldn't leave. So what she did is she created a lease for her son. Her son went in there and he became a squatter, and that's how they got the property back. Anyway, that's a real short version, but I'm like, okay, fight fire with fire, right? I mean, this is outrageous stuff here. Every day something happens, and I can't believe it.
Again, excuse my simple mind, but there's a very basic principle here. Private property and the rights.
There you go again.
Of a private,
rule of law. You're making common sense. What's wrong with you? I tell you. Do we have a problem here at all in Las Cruces? Do either of you know? Have you heard of anything
problem.
like that?
Yeah. Well, maybe not with squatters, but look at the problem with police, the relationship with police and criminals. Okay,
Yeah.
The criminals have more rights than the police do. Look at the policeman that was recently
I always feel
killed.
like the police here, I think the police, they have more handcuffs on them than the
Yes,
criminals.
they do. Why? Because we don't look at basic principles. Who is in right and who is wrong. But no, I don't want to violate your rights, so I can't ask those questions.
And there's so few police on patrol. Even 2 years ago, we found out that pretty much the whole eastern side of Las Cruces, from I-10 that way, there was one guy. All that.
One police officer?
One police officer, and there was a second one. There was just two for the whole 100,000 of Las Cruces. Plus, you kind of. So they need more police officers. They need to maybe put two police.
Empowered police officers
Yeah,
that have the
empowered.
rights to do their job.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I ideally, what I'd love to see, whenever I see the police officer and they're by themselves in one car, I want two of them to be in there because it must be
need
so
help.
difficult to do their job.
Yes.
And I understand.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that the new police chief Jeremy Story, to have his name right, I think he's trying to do things. I missed the meeting at CCIA where he came to speak. Did you hear?
Yes, I was there.
Did you feel encouraged?
Yes, I did. At least I had. There was somebody there that was saying what I hate to say it, what I wanted to hear, but his story was, and it sounded heartfelt, that he knew what the pain was, and he wanted to do something about it. He wanted to support his people. He wanted to give them the rights and the power to do their job.
Good. Well, any closing thoughts before we wrap up our show, Mr. Rick? Any message for our audience you'd like to convey?
There's 3 CCIA members at the county commission this morning, and 2 left because the county commission pulled a weird one. They wanted a closed session after the meeting began. Usually, like the Las Cruces school board will do their closed session 5 to 6, and the regular meeting starts at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this morning they voted to go into special session, and they left the meeting until 10:15.
So they really didn't have a meeting.
They had a meeting
Open.
like 9:10, then they voted to go to special session, and they didn't start the regular meeting back again to 10:15. And by that time, the other two CCI members left, so it just, it'd be nice to see better attendance at county commission, and maybe we'll get better attendance as we do more research on the erasing history and the logo.
We didn't even touch on the logo, but
yeah.
we'll do that next
I
week.
wanted to go back to the next meeting and touch on the logo. I was more on the message from Dona and the sheriff's office that we're all criminals now.
Which was really good.
We're all.
I mean, as you can tell, there's always a plethora of things we can talk about, but we need to wrap up this show. First of all, I want to thank both of you for coming here.
Thank you for inviting.
Hector Magallanes, thank you so much. Rick Reynaud, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Hope you come back again and do the show, and we really appreciate it very, very much.
No problem.
I want to thank Joey and Haley Garza and Daniel's doing the sound for us today too. You guys are always wonderful and great. I want to thank you chipsters, chipsteros, chipsteras. I recognize two genders here, okay? For tuning in. Please tell everybody about us. We're on Rumble, we're on YouTube, and we're growing. We need to get our message out politically for the good of our community. Las Cruces is still a really good community. There's some wonderful people here. I mean, we've got two good people up here too. And I'm not going to give up. I've moved back for a reason, and I want to stay here, and I think we can make Las Cruces great again. Don't you think so? I mean, we're close to the same age. We're boomers, and we know what Cruces was like, and we'd like for you guys to have it, Joey and Haley and Daniel, and I think that's possible. So have a wonderful one. Have a great week. Next week, remember, tune in to the Chips and Salsa Show New Mexico because we have a big surprise for you, right, Joey?
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Yeah.
If we can give you any hints, we will. Thank you so much. Until next week, gracias en Guacan. Alice Lara here with Hector Magallanes and
Rick Reynaud.
thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Have a great week.